Well, welcome to a not so happy post-game report presented by Verizon. I'm John DeShazier, senior writer from NewOrleansSaints.com, and the Saints unfortunately dropped to 2-5 after a 42-34 loss to the Arizona Cardinals at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Now, here's the good thing for the Saints. They're 2-5, only 1.5 games behind the division leaders in the NFC South. At worst, they'll be 2 games behind after this weekend's play, Atlanta and Tampa Bay pending if those 2 teams win. But unfortunately, that's not what we're concentrating on right now, because with 10 games remaining in this regular season, the Saints are 2-5 and a new and creative way to unfortunately lose this road game. And now they've lost 5 of their last 6 games this season. A couple of pick sixes in the final 2 minutes of the first half. And all of a sudden, the Arizona Cardinals are up 28-14 at halftime. The Saints have an interception in the end zone. Andy Dalton has fantastic numbers in this game, throws for 361 yards and 4 touchdowns. But the 3 interceptions turn out to be huge for the Saints. As we mentioned, 2 pick sixes, 1 interception in the end zone, probably at least 17 points swinging there, and the Saints lose by 8. So unfortunately for the Saints, just unable to put it together in this game. Took an early lead and had an opportunity, but the interceptions turn out to be decimating for this team in this road game with an opportunity to get to 3-4. And so now they have to await coming home, play the Los Angeles Raiders next weekend to try to get to 3-5 hopefully. But right now the Saints can't feel really good about much of anything in this game. When you don't win on the road, you feel like you're having a good opportunity, even though you have a slew of injuries. But there were opportunities to win this game, and unfortunately they squander them. So we're going to go to our co-host, Aaron Summers, who is at State Farm Stadium, witnessed this live on the field right there. And unfortunately, Aaron, we come back with the Saints, and we've had this conversation several times this season where this team has unfortunately found ways to not win games, and this was a new and creative one for this season. But what were some of the things that kind of stood out for you being there on site?
JD, it once again came down to the inability to execute the fundamentals, the turnovers, the tackling in space. Those things can't happen if you want to win games. You can't give up 14 points to the opposition. The first interception didn't necessarily lead to immediate points, but it eventually did. Those moments in the game caused a lot of difficulties for the Saints in the second half as far as having to come back. They were up 14-6 at that point. Now we're going to hear from head coach Dennis Allen.
Okay. Look, I don't think we played good on defense. I think our tackling was shoddy again. I thought offensively we did some good things. We moved the ball. We scored some points. The 3 takeaways were killers in the game. And look, we got to fix some of these issues. That's my responsibility to get these things fixed. We haven't been able to do that. We got to get some guys back healthy, which hopefully over these next, 10 days we'll be able to get a few of these guys back and give us some more guys to get out there and help us try to win a game. So that's all I got.
What's your biggest concern regarding this team and the way it's playing right now?
My biggest concern is that we haven't had, the health of our players. We got into this game tonight, and Roby goes out in the first series, and so, we're really down to 2 corners, and this is a big, 11 personnel team that's going to throw 3 wide receivers out there, and it made it challenging.
Is Taysom hurt? It looked like he didn't play much in the fourth quarter.
No.
Dennis, when you say the defense isn't playing that well, especially those explosives, I mean, it was a talking point before, and then there were
well,
more
it's tackling. We got to do a better job of tackling. They had one play in there that I felt like that was a good scheme play versus what we had called up, and that was the long run. 45-yard run, I think it was, and so the first explosive was, I think a scramble out with Kyler. He created some extra time to throw the ball and got Rondell Moore across the field. I know we had a check. We got him to check it down one time on a second down and missed several tackles, and it became an explosive play. So, yeah, that's an area that we've got to shore that up. It's not good enough right now. And look, I'll be honest with you, that all starts with me, and so I got to be better. I got to do a better job with those defensive guys in putting them in position to have success.
Dennis, when you went back out there after the first pick six, was there a thought of taking it? I mean, I know there's only like 2 minutes left.
No. I mean, we still had time to go and make a play. I mean, I would say of the 3 interceptions of Andy's, the one down in the red area, I thought, that was probably, he tried to fit that into a pretty tight window. The other interception at the beginning of the 2-minute was a pass that should have been caught. And then I didn't see it, but I think he kind of got hit on that last one, which caused it not to be, an accurate throw. So, really those two, it's hard to put that on the QB. But look, I thought in that situation, I really thought we were moving the ball effectively. I thought our offense was doing a really good job, being able to move the ball, and so I felt like that was the right move. And obviously the 2 pick sixes there to, in the first half, was not good.
I know you're frustrated to see these mistakes happen every week, but getting guys back on the field, are you optimistic that can help correct?
I certainly hope so. I mean, look, in part of the National Football League is, everybody deals with injuries, so that's just part of it, and that'll never be an excuse. We got beat today. We got to own that. That's on me. That's on us. And we got to play better. But certainly, I would hope that, if we're able to get a guy like a Michael Thomas or a Jarvis Landry or a Marshawn Lattimore, Paulson Debo, who missed the game today, if we're able to get some of those guys back and healthy, I think that'll help us.
You guys being so shorthanded on offense, is there any reason why you wouldn't maybe try to incorporate Shaheed or Taysom Moore just based on their success last year?
Yeah, look, I mean, everybody's got a skill set and things that they do really well. It's Taysom has his role when you kind of get down a little bit. Juwan's kind of been the guy that's been in there in the 2-minute situations. And so the game kind of dictates that a little bit. I think Shaheed's still a young player. And so there's still, each week there'll be a few more things that we'll try to incorporate him in, because he does provide an explosive element to our offense.
Dennis, I have a question about messaging, because I know it's a hot button topic even on a night like tonight when you said at halftime you're encouraging and telling Dalton keep doing what you're doing. And is there a fine line between encouraging and getting mad when mistakes are happening?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I think our team knows that they're held accountable. I don't think there's any question that they're held accountable, if that's what the question is.
Dennis, what is the mindset right now of your team?
Frustrated, but not despondent. Not, we still, everything that we want to accomplish is still right there out in front of us, and I'm fully confident that this team will put together a string of wins and turn things around.
Did you feel like you were in control of that game before the turnovers, like before the end of the first half?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Okay. Thanks, guys.
have one more. You were just mentioning earlier, you were saying all the mistakes, it starts with you. And so what is the plan to fix that? Because you can say, well, you know, we're working on fundamentals and we're working on tackling, but I guess kind of like, how does it go beyond that to fix some of those problems? If it is a coaching problem or...
Yeah, well, I think part of it's me putting our guys in a better position to have success. I mean, it's kind of simple as that, you know. And some of that is you know, getting the right people in the right spots. And I think that's what we got to continue to evaluate.
Is that
All right.
kind of possible with so many injuries?
Well, there's limited options. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Locker room's open. We'll have Andy Dalton in here.
Go on around.
Yeah, was that?
Yeah. You can go this way? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, clearly. So,
Yeah.
And then we have Coach Dennis Allen. And look, when a coach begins by saying, you know, we had shoddy tackling again, that's not something that you want to start out your post-game press conference with. It speaks volumes about some of the things that he feels like are plaguing this defense, shoddy tackling and, you know, giving up explosive plays. And unfortunately for the Saints, that's been a recipe that's happened the last 3 consecutive games. And, you know, those are things that just cannot happen with a team that's struggling to win. Those are things that, you know, contribute to you struggling to win and contribute to the losses. And, you know, the Saints are trying to get away from those things, and unfortunately, they just haven't been able to get away from those things. He mentioned the 2 pick sixes at the end of the first half, and that takes you into a deficit in the halftime, 28-14. And, you know, when you're the Saints, you're struggling to come back. And Andy Dalton, again, had 361 passing yards. The Saints had more than 400 passing yards and played adequate defense, actually, because when you look at it, the Cardinals scored 3 touchdowns and had about 320, 330 yards of offense. But when you hand away a couple of touchdowns, it puts everything at a deficit, and all of a sudden you can't run the ball when you're down 28-14, and you know those things start to plague you, and you know you're playing catch-up football. So it looks like we have Cameron Jordan coming to the podium for the Saints right now.
You haven't experienced much like this in your career here. I mean, what's the mindset of the team like right now?
Mindset is we have to find a reason. We have to find a way to get better. I mean, you end up losing to a team that, you know, we felt confident about. You get into, you know, whatever it is, you come out into the second half, and there's a lot of space and opportunity. We got to be able to capitalize. In the day, you look at it, they had 3 turnovers, we had 0. We got to step up.
How about similar question, but specifically the defense? Obviously, you guys have sort of been the engine recently. How frustrating is it that you're giving up explosives? And
I would say the explosives and the touchdowns that happen in the second half, they can't let that happen. Missed tackles are always going to hurt. If you have a missed tackle, you should have 8 or 9 or 10 guys rallying to the football. So we got to break down this film. We have to get back after it. We have to find a way. All right, now, we have to find our solution. We have to be the solution. We have the right personnel in the building to win. We have all the ability to win. We have to put that together. You can't take 2 steps forward one game and 3 steps back the next.
How does something like tackling become a problem for a team? Like, I mean, I know Dennis Allen said coaching needs to be a part of the solution, but how can that go so awry, and how can that get better?
I mean, coaches can only go for so far. It has to be on the players. It is on the players. When it comes down to tackling, I mean, there's got to be emphasis on the will of wanting to tackle. There's got to be emphasis on rallying. I mean, if one guy misses, it should be 8 or 9 guys flying to the ball. So we got to break down this film. We have to get better. I mean, I saw Carl Grandison come out the stack, make a tackle downfield, and if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. We have to be able to get these guys down each and every time. So more rallying, more effort, more. At this point, you take a loss, and you can say immediately, defense was not the reason why we won the game, clearly, and we want to be the reason.
With that in mind, then, you think it was an issue of the effort or the execution, or what do you think was the biggest?
I'd like to see the film first. I mean, I think there was effort there. I think on a quick turnaround week, everybody wanted to win. I mean, we had things in control. We had things where we wanted to be, and it got away from us. And that's something that, as a defense, you have to be able to step up. And if you see a turnover, you have to create a turnover. We have to create more turnovers. Our turnover differential is probably Pitt's. It's probably worse in the league right now. We have to figure that out ASAP. Before I can look anywhere else, I'm gonna look at myself. I haven't created a forced turnover yet. We knew what our job was with Kyler Murray. We knew he could give the ball up, and you saw him fumble once he got tackled once or twice, and he fell on it. That's not good enough. We have to get that ball out.
Cam, there's a reality too, though, to how many guys y'all have injured on, especially your secondary.
But, I mean, if you want excuses, we have tons of those. We're not looking for excuses. We're looking for solutions. And again, I think we have the right next man up mentality to make those solutions happen. I think we have to go into each and every game knowing that if this is what we got, it's good enough. And now we just can't go ahead and punch ourselves in the stomach with it.
Were they just making the plays, or was it just also a comment?
When you say make the plays, what does that mean?
I mean, the Cardinals, were they just making the plays, or was it a case of just
Offensive, defensive side. Offense or defense side?
Okay.
Which I'm asking you.
Well, I meant in terms of the defense. You know, they were making plays down the field in the second half. Was it a case of the defense not stepping up and not figuring out what they were going to do?
The Saints defense stepping up, or Cardinals?
The Saints defense, yeah, not being able
No,
to figure them out.
Yeah, no, I think there was some times where we had them figured. You saw 3 and outs happen. I think there was times where, we had exactly what we wanted, and then somewhere in there, our gap integrity was not strong enough. So sometimes it was on us. All the time it's on us. I think we gave them everything that they got. I mean, if you look at our offensive output versus theirs, our offensive output was stronger than theirs. So it's got to be on defense. You say, we had a couple 3 and outs, but we had 0 turnovers. So it's got to be on defense. We missed a couple tackles, and those can be crucial. That's leaky yardage. We got to tighten that up. It starts with me, and it starts with our defensive front.
How confident are you all can get this turned around?
Again, I think we have the right personnel in the building. I mean, I can't look across any position and be like, say we're weak at one spot. I think we have depth. We have injuries, but that's next man up mentality. I think we have the guys that can overcome adversity. I think that, there are some situations in this game, had we overcome them, we'd be sitting in a far better, more confident spot. I think we played good and not great. And great. If you're not playing great, that can get you beat on a Thursday.
Cam, did y'all feel like you had the game under control until right before the first half with those 2 interceptions?
That's easily said, yeah.
Thanks, Cam.
Well, understandably, Cam Jordan not feeling good about this one. Seemed to be frustrated there, Aaron Summers. We're going to go back to State Farm Stadium with Aaron Summers, and seemed to be some frustration there from the head coach and the defensive end.
Yeah, head coach Dennis Allen and defensive end Cameron Jordan both shared the same sentiments. They feel like they can continue to work on some things and that they're not out of it. They think that they can fix some of the mistakes that they've had, that they have the right people in the locker room, the right personnel around them to get things moving in the right direction, start getting some wins on top of each other, and they think that they can go on a run. Obviously, they're not extremely positive right now after the performance that they just had. It's 3 straight games that they've allowed 30 or more points. It is 3 straight games where they've scored 30 or more points. So they have found some things working on the offensive side of the ball. It's defensively. They've both said that they need to start forcing some turnovers. They are last in the league in that turnover ratio. They gave up 3 interceptions tonight, and they didn't force any on the defensive side. So that's definitely something that they are continuing to focus on over the next few weeks. I mean, they have 9 days until their next ball game. So there's a lot of time to look over this film from this game, from previous games, and fix some of the mistakes that they've been making over the past couple weeks. Obviously, that length of time means that they might be able to get some players back, and that's been part of it as well. The injuries, especially in the secondary, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, Paulson Adebo wasn't able to go. They lost P.J. Williams a few weeks ago. He's on IR. So it is an area that they've been depleted in. Alontae Taylor just was moved up from the injured reserve this week and thrown into the ball game, although he did do well early in the game. It's tough when you're missing some key players like that, and obviously the same can be said for the offensive side of the ball with Jameis Winston dealing with injuries. Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry did get Chris Olave back today, and he definitely had an effect on the offense. So it's a multitude of things. It's kind of some of the same things we've been saying over the past couple weeks, but they do feel confident that they're going to be able to fix some of the issues that they have had, JD.
Yeah, Saints had a lot of good things happen to them offensively. They moved the ball fairly well. Unfortunately, when you're talking about anything offensively with this game, though, you have to mention the three interceptions that turned out to be pivotal in this one. And, as Dennis Allen, alluded to and Cam Jordan alluded to, and, I know Saints fans don't want to hear it right now, but, they are a 3 or 4 game winning streak from being probably exactly where they want to be in terms of division standings. And unfortunately, you got to get to it, though. I mean, you can talk and, say everything that you want to say, but this team isn't playing that way right now. However, you get the mini break here over the weekend where you get a chance to, heal up a little bit. Maybe Michael Thomas is back next week. Maybe Chris Olave is back next week. Maybe Andrews Pete and Marshawn Lattimore are back next week. You've got a slew of bodies missing. Bradley Roby injured in this game. Paulson Adebo inactive for this game. So there are a lot of starters. Adam Troutman didn't play in this game that you hope to get back for that Raiders game if you're the Saints. But you can't just depend on hopes and wishes right now. You've got to be able to go with what you have, and what they had in this game probably was sufficient, but for the turnovers. And so those are the things that when you're talking about cleaning up and fundamentals and tackling in space and taking the proper angles, those are things that have to happen regardless of who's on the field and who's active, who's inactive. And those are things that have to be cleaned up in-house with what you have. And the Saints, unfortunately, have not been able to do that for the last several weeks. They've got to be able to fix those things if they want to make any type of move here while there's still time. Again, at worst over the weekend, there'll be 2 games out of first place in the NFC South Division. That's not an insurmountable amount of games when you're talking about 10 remaining in the season. It only seems insurmountable because the Saints are unfortunately creating different ways to not be successful. Whether early it was turnovers, early it was penalties, now it's back to turnovers when they had cleaned it up. And so some of the things that plagued them earlier, now missed tackles, are beginning to rear their heads again. And you can't be a good football team if those are the things that you're going to be doing as you attempt to make your move in the division and hopefully catch up to Tampa Bay and Atlanta. And again, if you're the Saints, played pretty decent defense in this one. Allow some third down conversions that, you really want to get away from, notably a 3rd and 10 run by Kyler Murray early in the first half. But overall, 3 touchdowns allowed and 30 yards allowed are acceptable numbers, except you put yourself in such a difficult position with the turnovers. So, defensively, disappointment. You could hear it in Cam Jordan's voice, and they like to have some say in these games defensively. There's a lot of pride in that unit, but that unit didn't hold up the way it wanted to the previous 3 games. I think it held up a little bit better in this one, but still not going to be happy about what happened. And when you look at the scoreboard in C42, nobody cares that the defense only gave up the 3 touchdowns. Everybody only notices that you gave up the 42 as a team and didn't win the game and you weren't successful. And so, that's one of those things that the Saints will harp on this week, over the weekend, hopefully get away, clear their minds, heal their bodies, come back next week with, they'll have a fresh outlook. There are leaders on this team that won't allow this thing to completely sink because they've been around and they understand how this franchise has been successful, Aaron, and they've seen this team win games. And they've seen, a lot of these guys have been a part of the teams that won 4 consecutive division titles. So, that's the kind of mindset they have. But right now they're a little bit beat up mentally, probably beat up physically, and probably beat up psychologically, and they've probably just got to get away from it over the weekend and hopefully mend themselves completely, mind and body. Aaron, what are some of the things that kind of stood out for you in the game? I know Rashid Shaheed, the guy you interviewed this week, ends up with a 53-yard touchdown catch. He's got 2 touches in the NFL, two touchdowns on those touches. But what were some of the things that might have stood out for you there in Arizona?
Yeah, everybody was really excited about wide receiver return specialist Rashid Shaheed last week after he had that big touchdown, and then he followed it up with another one. 2 touches, 2 touchdowns. Never happened before for a Saints player, so it's pretty cool for that rookie. And he had a ton of family and friends in attendance. He's from San Diego and played at Weber State, so had a lot of people coming in for this game. Really good for them to be able to see him score another touchdown in the NFL. There were some other big plays. We saw Taysom Hill hook up with Chris Olave. We saw Kevin White with a really great run, and he kind of tiptoed down the sideline, was able to get about 64 yards off of that one. So did see some really good plays in this game. Alvin Kamara had some good runs early. Unfortunately, they just had to deviate from their game plan because they got down in this game, and that's what we've seen several times this season. The run was working, but they kind of had to abandon it as the game went on, especially in the second half. Andy Dalton, heck, if you are a fantasy football owner, you're not mad at his numbers tonight because he put up a ton of yards and scored a bunch of touchdowns. I think that he is going to be one of the leading quarterbacks, actually, after this weekend with the fantasy football points that he might be giving some teams out there. Of course, it doesn't translate to the win, but there are some good things that we can take away from this game. And, you know, the Saints, they have this crazy stat that they keep stats for everything, and it's been, they had the longest record of games that they've played without being shut out in the NFL, so there's that as well. It's been 328 games that they have played and not scored in. Does that make sense? And so that's a good stat you can hold on to. You know, you gotta kind of find the positives in this one and understand that maybe they can take the weekend off, kind of reset a little bit, and then really hit the ground run and get a little more healthy as they head into that game against the Raiders. They do have 2 home games, so that's something good to look forward to as well. Kind of had some rough travel to start the season, so at least they'll be able to be home for a couple more games, and hopefully that will translate on the field as well.
Yeah, been a really difficult run for the Saints here. I mean, you're talking about a team that played in Carolina, then went to London, didn't have a bye week after that. Now you travel to Arizona on the short week, so getting home to play these games will help the Saints obviously physically, because it's got to wear on you just a little bit. And I don't care what kind of team you are, and I don't care what kind of physical conditioning you're in. It's got to beat you up a little bit, and the Saints have been a beat up team. Maybe quarterback Jameis Winston gets back for the Raiders game. Andy Dalton made his 4th consecutive start. Again, put up some really nice numbers in this one, but you have to also take into account the interceptions, which counterbalance the 4 touchdown passes. But Jameis Winston probably will be healthy enough to be back in the lineup if that is the decision that's made by Coach Dennis Allen heading into the Raiders game. Desperately need Michael Thomas back on the field. Chris Olave, as Aaron mentioned, has been fantastic, more than 100 yards in this game, and just been an outstanding receiver for the Saints. But he needs the assistance that will be provided by the presence of Michael Thomas, by the presence of Jarvis Landry. Those guys mean a lot to this offense, and they simply have not been on the field as a trio for much beyond the season opener in Atlanta. It's been difficult to get them all on the field at the same time, all healthy at the same time, all productive at the same time. It will be a sight for sore eyes if you can get them on the field, whether that quarterback be Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton. He will love to see a fully equipped receiving core when you're talking about Chris Olave and Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry, because that'll make this offense that much more potent. Alvin Kamara starts out well in this game, in the run game, but when you fall behind by double digits early, you essentially have to abandon the run game because you're attempting to make a comeback in the game. And so Alvin Kamara's touches plummet in this game. It looks like he was headed for one of those games where he was going to have 20 to 25 touches. And unfortunately, you can't get that production out of him because you fall behind, and now you got to throw the football in an attempt to come back. Tight end Juwan Johnson catches a couple of touchdown passes, so It's always good to get the tight ends involved in this offense and be productive. That was one of the things that Arizona's defense had difficulty guarding against, and that was tight end production. So Juwan Johnson gets out, gets a couple of touchdown catches. That's a good sight to see for that position. You want to be able to add as many weapons as you can if you're the Saints on offense. And defensively, this team simply has to get back to better health, especially at the cornerback. We mentioned Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo did not play in this game. And then Bradley Roby gets injured in this game. That's your top three cornerbacks. Rookie Alante Taylor plays, finally gets an opportunity to start, and he gets banged up in this game. So the Saints extremely thin at that position. Chris Harris ends up playing a lot at the outside cornerback, and he was brought in to pretty much play the slot. So Saints really beat up at that position right now, and not exactly sure what kind of shape they'll be once they get to the Raiders game. Hopefully that will allow some bodies to heal up, whether it be Paulson Adebo, whether it be Bradley Roby, whoever it is. Get those guys back on the field and get them productive out there, because they're still going to be playing against some of the productive receivers in the league, mainly Devontae Adams for the Raiders, tight end Darren Waller. Those are players who can put up huge numbers and can really frighten the defense. And if you don't have your top cornerbacks, it's going to be difficult to deal with them. Even in this game, DeAndre Hopkins comes back in his first game of the season, and I think he catches 99 yards worth of passes, 9 catches for 99 yards. That's a guy who basically hadn't played this season. That tells you how productive
Looks like we're gonna
elite
get
receivers can be,
Andy Dalton
even when they don't play. And looks like quarterback Andy Dalton is about to head to the podium for the Saints.
Andy, the interceptions is, you never want any, obviously, but the one in the end zone was definitely one. I know the pick six, but the one in the end zone is like the one that maybe you like that the most. If that makes any sense, because I know they were pick six.
Yeah, I mean, that one, it's tough. Saw the window there, and the corner made a good play. He undercut the route. So yeah, you'd like to have that one back. The other couple ones are just unfortunate, happenings in the play, and those are the ones that made a huge difference, because they led the pick six on both of them. So that's tough, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to have all three of them back.
Sorry, I'm entering at the end. You said the second one you got undercut. Was that throw affected at all by being hit, or it was you threw it to the spot you wanted to? The one that
In the 2-minute drill?
The last one you were throwing to Olave.
Yeah, I got hit, and so it affected the throw. I was going to have Chris in that window behind him. When I got hit, it changed the trajectory of the ball and made a play on it.
You put together a body of work over the last 4 weeks that kind of shows what you could do with this offense. Is it frustrating that 2 drives can kind of, undo some of the successes or some of the steps forward this offense has been taking?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. Regardless of what we've been able to do offensively and the points that we've been able to score, we haven't been able to score more than the other team. And that's the frustrating part. I mean, there's definitely things that you can look at and you can say we're doing some things really well. But at the end of the day, we haven't won these last couple ones that, especially since I've been playing, we've had close games in every single one of them. We've had our chances and we haven't been able to get it done. And that's the frustrating part.
What's the mindset like right now? You guys, it sounds like you all still galvanized and together as a team.
Yeah, everybody's sticking together, and that's the only thing that we can worry about. We got to worry about us, and the only way we're going to get out of this feeling this way is to pull all together in the same direction, and we will. I think we've got the right people here, and we know the standard of how we want to play and the expectation, and we've got to go get that done.
Andy, the long break, is it I know that a lot of guys talk about wanting to get bad taste out of their mouth even in the short week, but the opportunity to get some guys back, maybe it's going to kind of come at a good time for you guys.
Yeah, I think that's one thing you can look at this team, and we've got some guys that are out, and hopefully in these this next time off we can get some guys back healthy, and we've got some guys that haven't been able to play that we definitely feel like could help us.
Anything else for Andy?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, difficult showing this evening for Andy Dalton. Aaron, you were there listening to him. Just kind of summarize some of the things that he was saying at the podium. No, yeah, Andy Dalton, just difficult night for him, as I was just mentioning. The 3 interceptions. But Aaron, just kind of summarize some of the things that he was saying at the podium, because a tough night for Andy Dalton.
Yeah, JD, Dalton was obviously subdued. Nobody wants to come in here after a loss, especially when you threw 3 interceptions. 2 of them were pick sixes. But he said that the key right now is that this team entirely, they need to stay together, and he feels like that they are. He said everybody understands what needs to be done. They're continuing to fight. They have really good leaders on this team, and they're going to lean on those players. Like we saw from Cam Jordan earlier, he's one of those leaders in the locker room on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to address the things that need to be addressed. And Dalton said he has confidence. Everybody that we've talked to has confidence in their ability to turn this around. It's just going to take consistency and everybody working together to make sure that they're executing on those fundamentals. Every single play, everybody has to do their job, and they understand that. We're going to see how that translates over the next week and a half. We're going to see who's able to come back and play for this team as the injuries shake out. Hopefully nothing too serious for Bradley Roby tonight. I do feel like that changed the complexion of this game with the injuries that they already had to the secondary. Before the first interception, or leading to the first touchdown, ahead of the 2 interceptions there that were the pick sixes, I mean, there was that penalty, the defensive holding that had negated the sack and would have ended the Cardinals' drive there that led to that touchdown with 2:30 to go in the first half. So there's some of those types of mistakes because players were playing in positions that they might not always have to play in. And you're relying on people that are the backups there. So hopefully we can get some players back on the field in the next game against the Raiders, and hopefully they can clean up a little of the mistakes that we've been seeing over the past couple weeks.
And here's the super frustrating thing for the Saints, I'm sure. 4 of those 5 losses are 1-score games. And all 4 of those games, I'm sure New Orleans feels like they just handed it over to the opponent. And those are the things that really have to stick in your craw if you're the Saints. Felt like they handed the game away to Carolina. Probably felt like they handed this one away. Felt like they handed the one away to Cincinnati. Felt like they've handed another game away. I mean, those are the ones that you look back at and you say, but for this 2 plays, or but for this 3 plays, this team could have 2 more wins, maybe 3 more wins. And so those are the ones that really eat at you. But those are the ones that probably leave the team encouraged also, because they understand if you can just clean up a couple minor things, the record would be different. Now, here's the thing. Can you clean them all up in the same game? Because that's been the issue for the Saints. They've popped up in separate games and different games, and that's what has led to the losses. If they could somehow find a way to clean the slate and get everything pulling in the same direction on the same night for the same 60 minutes, then they wouldn't have these issues at the end of games, and we wouldn't be talking about a 2-5 team. We'd probably be talking about a team that's record might be reversed, or at least be 4-3 or something like that. But they continue to just have these sporadic moments in certain games where one element is the one that ends up costing them the game. The element in this one turns out to be turnovers. They've seen that happen before, but that is the specific element in this one that ends up giving this team an opportunity to not, well, taking the opportunity away from this team to win the game, because I don't know if I've ever seen a team that had 2 pick sixes and threw an interception in the end zone be successful in terms of winning that game. It's just too much of a hill to climb. And so, Arizona didn't even have to do much. 326 yards of offense is not a 42-point game, but the Cardinals didn't have to do much because the Saints gave them 2 of their 5 touchdowns that they scored. And so when you have a couple of defensive touchdowns, that makes life a whole lot easier for your offense. Your offense doesn't have to stress and strain and figure out how it's going to score points, because it's been handed some points that it otherwise wouldn't have had some bonus points, and now you put the opposition in a difficult position in terms of coming back in the game. The Saints, how did they seem to come out of this one physically, Aaron?
Changed early, yeah. No, I mean, momentum definitely changed once the first interception, I think. So hopefully we can kind of clean up some of those things, keep the momentum rolling on the Saints side in these next few weeks. But, right now, JD, I'm gonna go catch a plane. We're gonna head back to New Orleans. So we'll see you when we get back.
Yeah, the Saints got a little bit more beat up in this one, Aaron. How did they seem to come out of it physically? Because we saw Bradley Roby leave this game. Alontae Taylor got banged up a little bit later. Okay. And so, we want to thank Aaron for joining us at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. Unfortunately, Saints come out on the short end of this one, 42-34, drop their record to 2-5 as they prepare to come back home and play the Los Angeles Raiders. And this team still has a lot to play for. I know it sounds strange, but this team still has a lot to play for. There are 10 games remaining in this regular season. There are opportunities galore. The 2 teams ahead of the Saints in the standings, Tampa Bay and Atlanta, they're going to play those 2 teams again. And those 2 teams do not have the easiest schedules in the world going down the stretch. So if the Saints can remedy their issues with turnovers, if they can remedy their issues with penalties, if they can remedy their issues with missed tackles, who knows what can happen with this team. But it's got to be done on the field. It's got to be done in practice. They're going to keep an upbeat attitude. We know that, and there's going to be opportunities for them. Now it's just a matter of whether or not they can take advantage of those opportunities. So we want to thank you for joining us here on the Postgame Report on NewOrleansSaints.com. Hopefully we will join you for a much more joyous occasion after the next Saints game against the Los Angeles Raiders. And we're going to close you out with some highlights from tonight's game. Thanks for joining us.